Believe it or not, I'm here in the Blue Mountains. There's nothing much blue about them today. It's an overcast, drizzly day, but by the same token, tomorrow could be fine and sunny, which I'm hoping for. But I'm here today, and I'm going to meet up with a few painting mates of mine from the Australian Plein-Air Artists Group and spend a couple of days in the Blue Mountains painting and enjoying the scenery. It's a fantastic landscape here. Built over 300 million years of upheaval and erosion, and it's left plateaus and gorges and cliffs, mostly sandstone. It's just an absolutely lovely painting environment. It's always a pleasure coming up here to the Blue Mountains. But the Blue Mountains themselves are a part of a bigger system known as the Great Dividing Range, which really runs the length of the country, including things like the Snowy Mountains and Glasshouse Mountains in Queensland. It's really an extensive range with a lot of varied landscape amongst it all. And it's great subject matter from tip of the country right down to the bottom. It's going to be some fantastic scenery over the next few days, hopefully once this fog lifts, and glad I can bring it to you. I'm painting today with three of my artist mates from the Australian Plein-Air Artists Group, Phil Budge, Bruce Roberts and Marty Campbell. As plein-air painters, we spend much of our time by ourselves painting in the fields, so it's nice to get together now and then with a group of mates, all like-minded, all searching for the same things, a great bit of landscape and a great bit of light. It's nice at the end of the day to be able to stand around and critique each other's work and learn from that. It's just a wonderful experience.
You're a good hour before that. See, the sun's still up there. You've got to get the sun down there to get this lit up.
Yeah, and start to cut shadows through this side.
Whenever we come to a new site to paint, there's always great deliberation as to what makes a great subject, when the light will be right, what form to take as far as a board goes. There's all these questions that need to be answered, and that just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of planning in order to capture what we see. In some instances, we need to have a little bit of foresight, knowing where the sun's going to track and where shadows might play. Sometimes you might have to wait a little while for the sun to be in that right spot to cast the right shadow to capture exactly what we want. And in those instances, it becomes a waiting game. Setting up the easel, getting it all ready to go, and just sitting and waiting for that right moment. You almost feel like a mountain goat painting up in the mountains at times. To find a good perch sometimes away from foot traffic and tourists quite often means you're out on a ledge, which doesn't leave you a lot of space. In instances like this, when there's 3 or 4 of us out on the similar or same ledge, it doesn't leave any room for walking backwards to have a look at your painting and judge it against the landscape. Walking backwards can mean a fall of some 200 to 300 foot. It's not hard to see how the Blue Mountains got its name. The actual blue effect that you see is something that's known as Rayleigh's scattering, and what Rayleigh's scattering is light reflecting off particles in the atmosphere. And in the case of the Blue Mountains, it's light reflecting off eucalyptus oil that's evaporating into the atmosphere and bouncing back at us as blue. And because of the sheer amount of it, we're getting these vibrant blues. And the further to the distance that we look, the bluer things become.
is Phil Budge, and I'm retired. I retired after 40 years as a policeman, retired in 2002, and that's when I sort of started painting, well, not full-time, but pretty well full-time. Atmosphere in the mountains, I think, is second to none. I can't name another place where you'll find atmosphere like you get around here, especially around Lura. And you know, we were painting down there this morning, just at the end of our street here, and the atmosphere, which was very, very blue, of course it was, but photos can't show that. You can take a photo, it won't come out, but you look at it and it's just so atmospheric. It's like as if it's raining in there, but it's blue and it's sunshine. The escarpments, when you blend the atmosphere and the escarpments in together, oh mate, that's just heaven. That's what I love about the mountains. From painting outdoors, you've got the instant colour. You're actually looking at what you're trying to paint and what you're trying to achieve. If you're painting from a photograph, and it's probably easier to paint from a photograph because you got it right in there, and nothing's going to change. It's going to be the same for 24 hours, and you can draw. You can say, "Oh no, that's not right. I need to do a change here." Whereas you can't actually do that out in plein air. But the different shades of blues and greens and all of the lovely greys and that are out in plein air, they don't come up in photos. They just don't come up in photos. It's like a pure colour. Look around here, look at what we've got, it's a pure colour.
It was Wentworth, Blackson and Lawson that first cut a trail across the Blue Mountains, and of course artists weren't long to follow. The first of which was Augustus Earle, and Earle was different to the usual colonial artists who were concerned about scientific documentation and always attached to an expedition of some sort. But Earle travelled through the Blue Mountains and Bathurst region in order to solely capture the landscape. Not taking it as a scientific rendering, but an artistic rendering, which made his work quite unique. In 1867, a rail link between Sydney and Wentworth Falls was opened up, and this changed everything for the artists. Artists could now travel as freely as anybody could to the mountains in search of new and exciting landscapes. The first to take advantage of that was J.H. Cass. Cass travelled to the mountains in search of the new and exotic landscape that had previously been depicted by Augustus Earle, and he certainly found what he was looking for. But in his footsteps then came the likes of Conrad Martins, Elliot Gruner, and countless others right up to the modern era.
The beauty of plein air painting is that we paint together, and it doesn't matter where we go. There might only be 2, 3, 4, or it might be 15 of us, 20 of us go on our trips, and I'm talking about the Australian Plein-Air Painters Group, of which we're all part of. The mateship in that is second to none. Our campfires are second to none. Our campfire cooking with the odd glass of red wine is just wonderful too. The stories that you tell and the things that you learn, people like you and I are very, very lucky and fortunate to be part of this group. When you got people like, well, probably the old Grandmaster is Doug Seeley, very, very, very well known in the landscape area of painting, and Casey, Warwick, all of these professional painters who are very, very good friends of all of us, they're always so willing to come along and say, oh, I don't like that there, or perhaps you might try and do that, or gee, that's good, no, don't touch that, or Casey might come and say, now don't make a tart out of it. What he's meaning is you've gone far enough. You don't want to muck it up. These sort of things, it helps people. It helps us achieve what we're trying to in the end result. But look, we've got just a wonderful bunch of people, and we're so fortunate.